The sun's shining, birds are singing, and all feels right in the world.
Until the season changes, and suddenly you lose your motivation to get out of bed. In fact, 1 in 5 people experience some form of depression, no matter the season or time of year.
At the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, our vision is to build a mentally healthy nation for all, because we want you to live your best life and be your best you all year round.
Please visit mentallyhealthynation.org to learn more.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. And joining us now is Roger Stone, of course, close advisor to President-elect Trump. Roger, what do you make of all the picks so far for the cabinet, and what's still left? There's a couple sort of other ones sort of hanging out there.
Well, Rita, I'm particularly pleased with the selection and appointment of Scott Bessent. We actually broke that news right here on 77 WABC. I think some people look at his distant past where he worked in business for George Soros, not recognizing that he is an ardent supply-sider, tax cutter, cost cutter, a disciple of Larry Kudlow, who appears right here at 77 WABC. As we all know, the man who quarterbacked the economic revival under Donald Trump in his first term. I grilled Bessent right here on the air for an hour one Sunday, and I'm convinced that he is most definitely totally simpatico with the president's plans for growth and prosperity. And, of course, the big outstanding appointment is director of the FBI. This will be extraordinarily telling. Will the president go to former Congressman Mike Rogers, who I think was kind of a cheerleader for the Mueller investigation, or will he go with the stronger choice, Kash Patel, the man who ran the House Intelligence Committee investigation into the Russian collusion hoax? This decision, I think, will tell us a great deal about the direction of the administration.
Hey, Roger, this is Pete King. It was great talking to you outside the Garden 2 weeks ago. That was a great event, and it was great talking to you again. I think really key appointments are the Justice Department. Pam Bondi and all of the assistants, the deputies under him, under her, they are all solid people who are not going to put up any nonsense from the Justice Department or from the FBI, for that matter.
Congressman, I totally agree with you, and I, of course, salute your long service to the country and the people of Long Island. Great pleasure to see you most recently. I think you're absolutely right. I know Pam Bondi. She, of course, was the Attorney General of my home state. She's a tough woman. Anyone who thinks that she is not going to aggressively pursue justice and rebalance the scales so that we have a Justice Department based on the rule of law, not based on politics, well, then you don't know Pam Bondi.
Also, she has a team working with her that's going to work with her and not against her. They are all top appointees, starting with her and down the line.
I totally agree. I think this is the great difference. In 2017, Donald Trump was new to politics. He saw things in terms of party rather than philosophy. I think he's learned. It was a great president in his first term, but I think we're really poised for what could be a golden age of peace, prosperity, security, and justice for this country.
You know, Roger, you were just talking about Pam Bondi. One of the things that came out was that Trump is planning on obviously getting rid of Jack Smith, no surprise, and his team, no surprise either. Where do you see all of that heading and Pam's sort of role in that? Because, boy, she can really make, and you experienced this yourself. I mean, she can really set the tone of justice has to be colorblind. There can't be these crazy knocks on the door at 6 a.m.
Well, in a very strange way, in one sense, I'm disappointed. I believe that the appointment of Jack Smith, like the appointment of Robert Mueller, was unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. Neither one of those prosecutors was approved by the U.S. Senate to have those broad prosecutorial powers and unlimited budgets. There's no law that creates that position. They're not U.S. attorneys who would have been confirmed by the Senate. I really believe that Judge Cannon in Florida, who ruled that Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional, was correct. We're not going to get that ruling now because Jack Smith has correctly determined that he has no authority to prosecute a sitting president. That said, I think the charges against him, both in the so-called documents case, where I believe the presidential documents law allows the president, like Bill Clinton was ruled in D.C., to do anything he wants with those documents. And secondarily, the January 6th matter is a fraud. I heard Donald Trump tell people to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. So I think that Pam Bondi needs to look into what I think was a politicized hit job on the president.
Do you think that there will be an investigation of the investigators?
Well, there certainly should be. Speaking as someone, who was the target of suburban perjury, Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a White House aide under Mark Meadows, the White House chief of staff, testified under oath that the president called me and General Michael Flynn on January 5th to find out what would happen on the 6th. There is no such phone call. That never happened. There's no phone record. There are no witnesses. I've talked to General Flynn. I've never talked to Mark Meadows on the phone or in any other mode of communications. And we now know that Liz Cheney, a member of the committee, basically went around Cassidy's lawyer and urged her to perjure herself. Yes, I think that needs to be investigated. Yeah,
Judge Weinberg, you're shaking your head, too, because you're right.
I think, Roger, you're absolutely right. This is a case that never should have been brought by a so-called officer of the court who never should have been appointed. He was illegally appointed. You're absolutely right, Roger.
Roger, what about also the D.A. Bragg case? Because the state cases are still hanging out there. You got the Fannie Willis case, and then you got the D.A. Bragg case. It's pretty incredible that he even did the filing the other day. We'll see what happens. But essentially said that he might just put the sentencing on hold till 2029, Roger. I mean, this is, he should be taking a cue from Jack Smith and saying enough.
Well, I would obviously defer to Judge Weinberg, who knows far more about this than I do, and I'm not an attorney, but I think either one of those cases, if they can ever get to appeal, would be overturned, would be thrown out. The problem, of course, is that, as I understand it, until you're sentenced, you can't file that appeal.
No, that's exactly right.
Right.
And by the way, her case is, listen, I don't know which, if I was giving a law school exam, Roger, I don't know which would be a more ridiculous case, the Georgia case or the Manhattan case. They're both ridiculous. Any good lawyer, any good judge would recognize that. They should never have been brought in the first place. They both should have been dismissed at the beginning.
And Judge, what about also the other one, the case, the elevated, assets case, where it's like the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Where there was where there's no injury, where the Attorney General of the state of New York abused her powers and got a guilty verdict from a judge who prejudged it, a judge who I know.
And he decided that Mar-a-Lago was worth $18 million.
And set a number in excess of $400 million, where there was no damages, and the banks were fully compensated. They said to do business with him again. You mean that case?
Rita? Yeah, that case.
That should be turned out entirely too, because there was no crime, there's no violation, civilly, criminally, or otherwise, and never should have been brought. Period.
Roger, your reaction? It is incredible. It's still hanging out there.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think that's why Trump's victory, just several weeks ago, is all the more significant. He didn't just win a smashing re-election and return to the White House. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to keep him off the ballot in 50 states. They tried to throw him in jail. And he still came back from all of that. That's why this is, in my opinion, an incredible tribute to his resilience, his stamina, his toughness, his persistence. It's why the victory is all the more sweet.
Are they looking for Peter King there? Is that what's going on, Pete?
No, maybe it's the army.
Where's that song? They're coming to take him away.
All I know is, Roger, they sent the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to get you at your home in Florida when they indicted you. So you must be a pretty dangerous guy. God.
Doesn't even have a passport.
Roger, thank you very much for being with us, Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Great to be with you. Many thanks. God bless.
Happy Thanksgiving, Roger.
Thank you, Roger. And you guys, what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America.